Hey, and welcome to this week's Wisdom Wednesday. In today's Wisdom Wednesday, I'm going to be sharing something fairly personal, well, not fairly, very personal, about my horror week and how I handled it. So, over this week, I spent a lot of time in hospital with my wife while she had cancer cut out of her body. It was deeply traumatic for me and for her, more so. Maybe it's actually worse for me. I'll talk about that in a second. Seeing someone that I love dearly, who I have been in love with for many, many years, and we have an amazing relationship, be stuck in a whole bunch of machinery, all in aid of helping her be healthy, which she is. And then she went under the knife to have cancer cut out of her body. And during this week, and I'm with her in the hospital for the whole period that she's in there, I've also had a flu, and a whole bunch of people have had a flu. And it really whacked me. So that coincided with Anne-Marie going into hospital. And at the same time, I also have businesses to run. I'm not just involved with this business, I'm involved with other businesses, and we're in the throes of a whole bunch of important priorities that need to be gotten through. And along with that, we also had challenges in our family with one of our sons and his girlfriend. So it was one of those weeks. And when we talk about how I dealt with that, this is really important because I'm getting to the crux of what I might call the wisdom teaching in this. Well, the first thing, by the way, is I was able to handle all that and handle that with some aplomb and effectively. And the first thing it makes me think about when I went through that was how people use their time. So even though I was in that situation, I still had to handle the business stuff, as I said, and I have. And people always say to me they don't have enough time. It's rubbish. It's about how you use your time. And if you prioritize things that are important, truly important to your heart, you'll get the things done that you need to get done. But that's not what the crux of the discussion's about. Meditation. Meditation got me through a rather hellish week. Now, meditation is something I've done for many, many years, and meditation can be used in many, many ways. But I want to tell you about an experience that I had 2 days after leaving hospital with Anne-Marie. I could feel myself getting grumpy, snappy, and short. And the moment that I don't have what I would consider my ideal emotional disposition in place, I take responsibility for it, because lower emotions, what I consider lower emotions, anger, victimness, depression, self-pity, or anything other than a loving disposition or a centered disposition, it just poisons the people around you. It's not an act of love. And you also poison yourself when you constantly enrolled in those emotional tones. So in seeing that and seeing this snappiness, seeing this reactivity, I take the responsibility. So as I said, I always take responsibility. When any of those sort of emotions come out, what we consider the lower emotions, I'm going to go and meditate. Now, meditation is used to center and silence the mind, and that has massive benefits. But meditation, when used correctly, also helps you understand what's really driving how you think and how you behave. You see, most people have unconscious reasons for the way that they're behaving, and most people are very unintelligent about themselves and very trivial about themselves, meaning they have these negative emotions or these negative thoughts, they're reacting to certain people, to the environment that they're in, and because they don't meditate, because they haven't done deep inner work. The reasons for the things that they think they're angry about, well, they're not the reason. You've got to go into the unconscious. What's the unconscious reason for it? So in the meditation, I go in and I can see, and I've been doing this for years, so don't rate yourself if you can't have these experiences quickly. It takes time to train, to develop emotional intelligence through meditation, and this is emotional intelligence. When you can identify and understand what's happening if you're on an unconscious level at will, you're making the unconscious conscious, you're going to be wise. That's just how it works. Wise about yourself. Wise about why you do things. And it's only then that you can change any damn thing. So in that experience of the trigger, as I go into meditation, I see the horror for me, the deep horror of seeing my wife mutilated, my wife prodded, cut open. And as I said, it's all for her healing, and it's fantastic. But my unconscious was horrified. They were images, I saw images that my unconscious found it really hard to deal with. And I was angry that that happened to my wife, unconsciously angry. And that's why I was reacting in the outer world. But again, so the things that I thought I was angry about weren't what I was really angry about. I was really angry that my wife had to suffer in this way, that this beautiful human being had to experience such what I considered horrors. And of course, through that meditation and seeing that, we integrate it into the psyche. And in the integration process, that no longer became an issue or challenge for me because it gets resolved. So unconscious content, when it's seen, held and understood, resolves itself and integrates into wisdom on the conscious level. And often we're working with investors who are so stuck in their head, and I'm trying to teach them to feel, and they just don't want to. Well, why would I feel? Well, that's why you have to feel, so you can bring up unconscious content, which will show you what's really driving the way you are and why you decide what you decide. And then it gets integrated and you become far wiser. Now, that's the first thing. So obviously, again, let's just go back through that. Here I am. I can see that I am behaving in ways that I don't want to behave. Emotions were surfacing and starting to live themselves out through them. I was being snappy. Take responsibility straight away. That's not who or how I want to act. That's not bringing love to anyone around me or love to self. Go and meditate. Find out what the unconscious reason is for those emotions. That integrates back into, and once you do that, the unconscious integrates back into the conscious, and that's how you heal as a person, by the way. Bringing the unconscious into the conscious, and it integrates, and you become more of a whole person with far greater access to more powers, wisdoms, and knowledge. The second aspect to that is, again, through that whole week, running my businesses, Amory with her cancer being cut out and the whole recovery process, the challenges with my son and the daughter, his girlfriend, then I'm back meditating. And meditating, so there's another stage to meditation. So meditation is not just used to identify and resolve unconscious conflict. It's used to relax, deeply relax the entire bodily consciousness. So everyone will observe that if you are stressed, your body actually gets tighter, more wound up, your ego gets far more reactive, and you tend to make poorer decisions at that point. Meditation relaxes everything, and it releases the stress out of the body, stress out of consciousness. And then you have access to far greater logical abilities and far greater intuitive abilities. You can connect with what's really required to deal with something. So that's a big part of Wisdom Wednesday. And then the last one that I sort of want to finish with is my wife herself. My wife is an absolutely amazing human being. And to watch her go through what she went through, she taught me a lot, and she's always taught me a lot. She's a living example of someone that I just admire because of her qualities, her she's just the most beautiful, warm-hearted, caring human being. She's not weak. She's no pushover. She's also tough. She stands up for herself, can set boundaries because she loves herself enough to do that. But my wife, in all my years, and we've been together for so many years, and we've had all sorts of challenges, like people do in relationships. And I don't mean actually, her and I haven't had lots of challenges, but just challenges that come at us from the world, from our family. I've run businesses for years, and you work long hours at times, and all the challenges of that. We lost money years ago in a investment, another business that I was involved with, and we were ripped off. It's a business I didn't actually have anything to do with. It was through a partner of mine. So I've observed that her entire life, she just keeps this real spirit about her. That's the only way I can say it. She never hops into victim. She never hops into poor me. She nips any negative emotion in the bud, and she keeps a very positive disposition even through the trials and tribulations of life. Now, she gets a reward for that, by the way, because people tend to love her because everyone wants to be around her because she's such an uplifting human being. And again, over the whole cancer experience, I observed her just this beautiful ability to stay positive, to stay uplifted, and not falsely, because there are certain people with what we call the Pollyanna complex, who it's a false positivity. So bring it back to what I was teaching before, and this is quite deep what we're talking about today. But you heard me say I could see that I had some negative reactivity, and I went and meditated, got clear about what was really happening on the unconscious level, and then in doing that, that integrated back into the psychology, into the conscious element of the psyche, and then that disappeared for me, so I can go back to my normal disposition, which is reasonably centered. I have a strong warrior consciousness, as people know, but alongside that warrior consciousness is a very loving disposition. I have a very good balance of masculine and feminine energies, so they tell me. So in that way, that in doing that, when I come back to that positivity, that centeredness, it's not false. So people that have what we call the Pollyanna, what happens for them is they don't do what I said. They don't go in and address what's stopping them being in that state, that more beneficial state. They put on an act, or they force themselves to be positive, or have a good attitude. And oftentimes when I look at them, because I can read people, it's like they're the smiling assassin. So you know that they're looking happy, they're acting like they're happy, but I can see on the unconscious level they're full of depression, hatred, and anger. That's why I call them the smiling assassins. So you can't force that attitude. You have to do inner work to develop that attitude. And my wife has certainly done that. She's experienced a lot of horrible things in her life, especially when she was younger, and that's how she developed a fortitude in character. Now, in that, there's something really important to say with that. And I know my wife shares this viewpoint. You see, egos tend to react to what's not going right for them and what's going right for them. Well, what do I mean by that? Okay, so your ego has an idea about how you want things to be. And that's great, because we all have to have desires. That's how the world evolves. Desires and problem solving. The problem with that is that this is where I love Buddhism, but sometimes they're a bit weird with Buddhists. Buddhists have a desire to have no desire, but the desire itself is a desire, and desire is required for human evolution. Desire to get away from the pain, desire to have a better life. That's part of what develops the human species. But so the ego, it's always going, oh, I don't like that, I hate that. It's not working out the way that I want it. Oh, I love this. I love this. This is working out exactly how I want it. It's really good to develop equanimity, which is your sense of happiness, your sense of loving disposition is a discipline that you've developed that's not tied to the outcome of things. Gratitude, working with gratitude helps you get there. So gratitude is not complaining about what you don't have or the present circumstances. It is developing a sense of gratitude for what is working, what is good. And so when you take away your sense of happiness from egoic outcomes, you start to become quite a beneficial person to be around. And I think you are moving on a path that might be considered higher rather than lower. Look at the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama, doesn't matter what's happening, he keeps that element on, and I would say he's a higher consciousness human being. Anyway, I hope you got a lot from that today. Meditation and working on a true attitude of compassion, goodness, loving disposition. True one means that you've healed through the processes that I talked about before. Some of the other elements that take you out of that so that it's a natural disposition rather than a forced disposition. Anyway, a couple of things. Not related to what we're talking about, but super related to what we're talking about. I'm running an event on the Gold Coast in about a month. It's for business owners, and it's for business owners who want to be able to get way more free time from their business. When we talk about way more free time, you want to be able to have your business run independently of you. So a lot of my clients, I've worked with them where they can just exit their businesses and earn good passive income from those businesses. Other people that I work with, they're a bit like me. They like doing what they do and they want to work in their business. To a certain extent, what we're doing with them is showing them at the Gold Coast event. It's called Fire Yourself 2019. We're showing them how to set their businesses up so that there are passive income streams from the business, which will allow them to have way more freedom, but they can work in their business when they choose. That's how I've built my businesses in the past. I have businesses that run without me, but in this type of teaching business, I've always wanted to teach. But I'm going to tell you, I have a good lifestyle because of the way I set my team up, my systems up, and all those types of things. So we're going to be sharing that at the Gold Coast event. You'll see some posts down below about that. If you've got any questions or you've got anything that you want to share about, say, some of the ways you may have dealt with tragedies or challenging times, just let me know down below, and I hope you get a lot from today. See ya.